Aaron.
Yeah.
Why didn't you say it the first time I said Aaron?
Because it's pronounced Aaron.
You done messed up, Aaron.
Aaron is back for SPTV Part 2 for the day. Okay, this is a crazy one. This is a crazy one, particularly for anybody who spent a minute in Scientology. Guys, did you know there's more than 3 Feshbach brothers? I worked for Kurt Feshbach for 5 years, and I did not know they had a 4th brother, Dan Feshbach. And I'm glad that Mike Rinder did a blog post about this, because I got an email about this about 10 days ago. And it was very quickly falling down the list of things I was going to do videos about. But the fact that Mike did a blog post about this makes it very easy for me to do the video. So thank you, Mike. Guys, so first of all, for you Scientologists out there, sorry, I keep jumping around on my views here. For you Scientologists out there, the Feshbach brothers, Matt Feshbach, Joe Feshbach, and Kurt Feshbach, were famous in Scientology. You might say are famous, except Joe's dead, Kurt's basically non-existent, and Matt's declared bankruptcy, but he still does Scientology seminars on how to achieve financial success using L. Ron Hubbard administrative technology. It's like absolutely ridiculous. Let me get rid of my little SPTV logo. Okay, so I was talking about the Feshbach brothers are absolutely famous in Scientology. They were the first people to ever donate $1 million to Scientology. They were the first public Scientologists to ever finish Superpower. And did you guys know, for you Scientologists out there who are familiar with the Feshbach brothers, did you know that the reason David Miscavige had the Feshbach brothers do Scientology was as a punishment or to fix them for having lost Tom Cruise's money when he invested with them? Did you guys know that? I actually did know that before, but I totally forgot. Okay, so let's see. What's the deal with this blog post here? By the way, if you haven't read Mike Rinder's book, A Billion Years, you should definitely get that book. I prefer the audio version myself. Mike did read his own audio book. You know, he does the narration. Okay, moving on. Feshbach. Oop, that's the wrong thing. Make this nice and giant. Feshbach brothers. So this is then back in like 1990. Yep, they sure look different back then. Okay, so Mike goes, I was either unaware or had forgotten that there's a 4th Feshbach brother. A reader sent me a note about this, and I was surprised. The 3 infamous Scientologists, Joe, now deceased, Matt and Kurt, used to be mainstays of the Scientology whale pod of wealthy contributors to all causes. They have faded into the background today. As I said, Joe passed away, and his wife, Cindy, moved to Austin. Their daughter, Jessica, was Katie Holmes's handler and formerly married to Tommy Davis. Matt and Kathy came out second best in their battle with the IRS over $3.8 million in unpaid taxes that they failed to discharge in bankruptcy due to their extravagant lifestyle. Kurt and his wife, Kanan, have always been quieter and behind the scenes. The only one out in public these days is Kathy, still shilling for the IAS and social media. So who is the 4th brother, Dan? Well, it turns out he's an investor who lives in Mill Valley, north of San Francisco. Digging around a bit, I found this article from 1990 that mentions Dan. Short road to success. Investing. The Feshbach brothers of Palo Alto have made a fortune betting that stocks will go down, but some critics question their short selling methods. Okay, so let's see. Where does it mention Dan? Okay, this is a quote from the article. The Feshbach's older brother, Dan, 42, chose not to join the firm and is chief executive of Mortgage Information Corp. Besides his 2 master degrees, he differs from his brothers by not being a Scientologist. It works for them, Dan said, but it's not my thing. The other brothers credit Scientology, to which they donate great sums for their skeptical, analytical style. I'm pretty sure the other 3 Feshbach brothers didn't go to college. I could be wrong about that, but it looks like Dan's got 2 master's degrees. Okay, so Mike asked the question. The obvious question is, how did Dan not get categorized as an SP? He's investing in a solution for autism, which definitely entails investing in big pharma. Have the Feshbach dynasty been PTS all along? Okay, let me jump to a different view here and just say a couple things, and then we'll go back to this. the fact that I worked for Kurt, and when I say worked for Kurt, I mean, we were basically two people in a two-person company. Kurt's investment research company is called Falcon Research. I worked for Kurt as the head of research of Falcon Research for 5 years, from 2009 to very late 2013. He was number one in the business. I was number two. It was essentially, operationally speaking, just the two of us. And my point being, I spent hours a day talking to Kurt Feshbach for 5 years. And I didn't know he had a brother, Dan. And it's not even a thing like he wouldn't have mentioned him because of the shame of disconnection. No, Kurt had other children he disconnected. Kurt had children he disconnected from who he didn't mind talking about. I mean, Kurt even disconnected from his Scientologist children. Corinne Feshbach. Corinne Feshbach was actually the head. She was the qualifications secretary, the QualSec in non-Scientology lingo, the head of quality control for the Scientology Narconon rehab facility that Kurt Feshbach owned. She was the head of quality control of a rehab facility, and she was actually doing drugs with the clients. That tells you everything you need to know about Scientology's Narconon facilities. And, Corinne was always a Scientologist. She was always getting into trouble, drugs, alcohol, crime. I mean, the last time I saw Corinne, she was being dragged out of a super Target in handcuffs for shoplifting. But she was still a Scientologist. And Kurt and his wife, Kanan, disconnected from Corinne. In fact, it was Kanan who insisted that Kurt disconnect from Corinne. Let me see. I've got another here. This is Kanan. Kanan Feshbach has got to be, hands down, one of the most unbearable, insufferable people I ever knew in Scientology. And, I don't know how Bryn Wesh put up with her for so many years. Bryn Wesh was kind of like Kurt's COO. Bryn is a woman. COO of a few of Kurt's companies. And so Bryn was the one who actually did a lot of that work and heavy lifting in all these companies. And Kanan was always just sort of hovering, floating, drifting around, pretending like she had a role and, trying to give orders and provide direction when really she was just in everybody's way. The thing that's crazy, one of the crazy stories, and there's a lot of crazy stories here, Kanan used to be Kurt Feshbach's nanny. Like, when Kurt was married to his previous wife, Kanan was their kid's nanny. Like, seriously, not kidding. And so then Kurt left his wife and shacked up with Kanan, who, and this photo is already 5 years old. One of the crazy things is Kanan actually looks like a Feshbach. She actually looks like she could be Kurt's, sister or daughter or whatever. They have the same teeth, same eyes. She actually looks like him. And okay, so that's Kanan. Yeah, so Kanan, why am I talking about that? Oh, yeah, because Kanan was the one who actually insisted that Kurt disconnect from his Scientologist daughter because she was just so much trouble. And also, back to normal view, there is a former Scientologist named Jeff Levin who has a documentary coming out. Jeff Levin, his documentary coming out about his path into Scientology, in Scientology, and his path out of Scientology. And it has to do with one of the main themes of the documentary is the disconnection between him and his slightly older brother, Robert. Slightly younger brother, Robert. Jeff and Robert were in the band called People. They had a number one hit or a big hit back in the 70s. And I'm mentioning this because one of the things that struck me, I just watched the documentary yesterday. And one of the things that really struck me was that Jeff disconnected or had to disconnect from Robert just because he was a member of the band who didn't want to join Scientology. Robert wasn't antagonistic to Scientology. He wasn't attacking Scientology. He wasn't trying to get Jeff out of Scientology. He just wasn't willing to join Scientology. Oh, actually, I got the story all wrong. Robert actually did join Scientology for a while, and then he left. It was the two lead singers of the band who didn't want to join. Um, but Robert, yeah, okay, fine. I screwed up the story, guys. So perhaps, but Robert was never someone who was attacking Scientology. That part of the story is true. But because he left Scientology, and that's considered a suppressive act. Anyway, I was going to make a comparison to the Feschbach brothers, where, you know, it is possible that the Feschbach brothers actually disconnected from him, even though Dan was never a Scientologist. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is, if they disconnected from their brother Dan, it's not even because he was in Scientology and left Scientology and therefore committed a suppressive act. There's some other story going on here. Okay, let's go back to the screen sharing and see what else Mike had to say about this. Have the Feshbach dynasty been PTS all along? PTS is Scientology's word for being connected to a suppressive person or a source of suppression. Does this explain why Matt, as the first guinea pig public, put through superpower as a result of having lost Tom Cruise's money when he gave them some to invest? Does this explain why Matt went on to file for personal bankruptcy, or why Joe died of a heart attack way too young, even though he was OT7 or OT8? Then again, in the world of Scientology, it only matters how much money you have and how much you're willing to hand over. Look at Bob Duggan. Bob's wealth comes from Big Pharma, mainstream, big time Big Pharma. But Scientology is happy to have him around as long as he keeps giving. The most sacred book in Scientology is the checkbook. Oh, I like that quote. Yeah, so if we go to this LA Times article from 1990 where, well, this is where Dan is mentioned, and it's the only place I've ever been able to find Dan mentioned. There's a section in here that's really interesting where it talks about just how dedicated the Feshbach brothers were to Scientology, and actually speaking about it publicly to the LA Times. I found it pretty easily before I started the live stream. Let's see if I can find it again. Yep, it says right there, Kurt's a high school dropout. In addition to contributing to the Church of Scientology and attending courses, the Feshbachs are members of a separate International Association of Scientologists. That's a weird thing to say. Yeah, so this was back in the day before the IAS had levels of donorship where you can donate $5 million, $10 million, $25, $100 million. It used to be that $250,000 was the most you could donate, or was the most you could be recognized for having donated. Oh, the simpler days of Scientology. Damn it. Where's the Scientology part? Oh, crap. I'm screwing everything up in this live stream. All right. Well, who really cares about that? Okay. So the last thing I want to do, by the way, I ended my last chat without addressing the super chats, and that was a mistake. I didn't mean to do that. So if there's any super chats in this one, I will address them. Any Scientologists, under the radar Scientologists, people, San Francisco, San Jose. I think San Jose is where the Feshbachs were in Scientology. LA people, Clearwater people. Please give me the skinny on what the deal is with Dan Feshbach. I mean, there are so many Feshbachs that, you know, between them and all of their kids and their in-laws and their nieces and their nephews, there's got to be hundreds of Scientologists who know what is the inside skinny here regarding Dan Feshbach. If anybody can contact me privately and give me some of the backstory on this, maybe I'll do a better video about it. You can reach me at growingupinscientology@gmail.com. Okay, we got one comment here from Ken's channel. I just checked. Dan still owns a house in Mill Valley, and it's worth $2.8 million. Yeah, well, it seems like the brother that didn't get into Scientology is the only one who didn't get financially ruined or die. The only reason Kurt Feshbach had a company for me to work for is because he had run out of money and needed to start working again. The Feshbachs had made so much money, Kurt should have had no need to ever work again in his life. Now, what running out of money means to Kurt Feshbach is probably different than what it means to other people. But I'll tell you what, when I worked for Kurt, I mean, we worked 7 days a week. You know, this was in the stock market, this was in the hedge fund industry. And, you know, Kurt is a hard worker. He did seem to love the work. But I also did get the impression he would have perhaps rather not worked. Okay, Joshua Cox, I am Corona. I'm going to guess that's currently. I am Corona in Tampa. Would you like to meet up for cigars? Joshua, I would love to. The problem is that we're getting ready to go out of town on a 1 week vacation. And between now and Friday night, I have a ton of stuff to do. And Tampa sometimes, depending on traffic, is a good 40-minute drive for me, at least 30 minutes. So I won't be able to, but I really appreciate the offer. Otherwise, it would be a lot of fun. Yeah, I could use a good cigar. All right, everybody. Well, that was my video about Scientology's lost Feshbach brother. I'm hoping I get a lot of the inside skinny and I can revisit this issue and do it some more justice. Guys, I'm going to be doing a live stream with my attorney friend, Zach Morgan. We're going to be talking about a famous Scientology executive who it turns out was indicted for a financial scheme. And no, I've never heard any word mention of this. We're going to break this down at 4 p.m. Eastern, and we'll see. I might try to do something before then, or I might not. All right, everybody. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Thanks to everybody who watches until the very end, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right here. Bye.